Welcome back. This is the Scaling Secrets podcast, and Kate Volman is here from floydconsulting.com. So, Kate is the CEO of Floyd Coaching. She has 20 years' experience developing and leading life changing programs for entrepreneurs and leaders. She has a passion to help people just like you grow to where you want to go. She's the author of Do What You Love, a guide to living your creative life without leaving your job. And she has podcasts called Lead with Culture and Create for No Reason. So we're going to be talking today about company culture, living a more creative and fulfilling life, and so much more. So, Kate, how the heck are you?
I am awesome, Robert. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Great to have you. And so we gave a little bit of a bio and intro, but what is your passion? What's your focus? What gets you just excited to jump out of bed in the morning?
So many things. There's so many opportunity. Just this idea that we get to wake up and help leaders to help their teams become the best version of themselves and to really live a more powerful and fulfilling life. And if we get to play a role in that, then it is a good day.
Well, wonderful. Well, what does that look like? Because it's easy to, talk about these keywords that sound great, sound nice, but then to actually experience what a life like that is, like without the proper company culture or without the proper mindset versus with, what should a fulfilling life and a fulfilling day look like for us?
So I'm always fascinated when I look at research that has been done over the many decades. And the one constant that seems to show up within organizations is that 70% of the workforce is disengaged. So 70% of people are disengaged. And, over the years, we've heard a lot about quiet quitting and the great resignation and all these different things. And when we think about engagement, why are people disengaged at work? They're disengaged at work mostly because they're also disengaged in their life. And so disengagement, where does that come from? That comes from when people stop dreaming. And we all have dreams for our lives, for our businesses. And so many years ago, back in 2007, Matthew Kelly published his first book, The Dream Manager. And essentially, the main essence of the book is that an organization can only become the best version of itself to the extent that its people are becoming better versions of themselves. And how do you do that? All you leaders out there, you can start asking your team members, what are your dreams? And so we've got to reignite people's dreams that they have for themselves, for their families. And when they become more engaged in their own life, they're going to become more engaged in their work life. And really, there's all these conversations around work-life balance and what that means, but it's really around satisfaction. Like, how satisfied are you with the work that you get to do? And so when we tap into people's dreams, and there's all different areas of dreams. There's 12 different categories of dreams. We have physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, psychological, creative. And we got to tap into all those different dreams in order to live a really fulfilling life.
Wonderful. We want to get there. And so you're saying that people have maybe forgotten or given up or just gotten off track with their dreams. And that whole term work-life balance, I've never really liked that because I think of a balancing act and well, if it's good at work, then it's bad at home. And then that whole idea of well, I have to be one person at work and one person at home. And as you know, with the pandemic and remote work and things being on Zoom and working from home, etc., it's all kind of become entangled. And so you say there's 12 different kinds of dreams, but do you hear, when you ask about the dreams people have given up on, do you hear the same kind of dream or a repeat pattern, or is there a noteworthy sort of dream worth mentioning that will really give us a good example today?
Yeah. So, and yes, it's so funny that you say that the pandemic caused us to think about work-life balance differently, but it's always been this way, right? When you think about it, it's not this professional life or personal life. We're one and the same. When we have challenges at work, we don't leave those behind. We don't just drop our anxiety at the door when we get into work. It's with us. So we have to figure out how to handle those situations. And more importantly, to help our people handle those situations. So a lot of the people that we work with big organizations. They have hundreds of employees. And so you can imagine there's obviously lots of different kinds of dreams and people. But a couple of the dreams that come up very often every year are, I would say the top 5 dreams are people buying a home, becoming financially free. Everyone wants that financial freedom, and losing weight or getting fit, right? Like being healthier and fit. One dream that we've seen that people have really been working on over the past couple years too has been to develop a deeper relationship with their spouse. And I know that some of you might be thinking, those aren't dreams. That's just life. But no, those are dreams. Sometimes we think that dreams have to be these big, outlandish, like I want to be a billionaire. I need to have a mansion on the water. And those are beautiful dreams if those are dreams that you have for your life. But it's not like just having those simple dreams that people have given up on, right? Some people just feel so beaten down and they've forgotten that they can actually do something every day to help fulfill those dreams.
So why don't we have all our dreams realized? If it's just that easy, right? If you say, well, my dreams, instead of like climbing Mount Everest, I want to have a better relationship with my spouse. I just need to work on it every day. Cool, my problems are solved. Why don't we all have our dreams realized?
Well, this goes back, and I'm sure many of your guests have talked about accountability, right? Like so many of us, we do not hold ourselves accountable. Look, we know what it takes to be our healthiest self, right? We know we should not be scrolling on social media for hours every day. And yet here we are. We find ourselves doing all these things that we know we shouldn't be doing. And so when we have someone in our life, whether it's an accountability partner, this is why people invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in and in coaching for their people. We are giving them a gift of accountability and also some encouragement. Think about it. Whenever I read statistics or see studies that share that people are leaving work, why do they leave work? They're leaving work not because they don't like the work. They're leaving work because of their manager, right? They're leaving work. And so often they say 80% of people that have been surveyed have said, I get no encouragement. I get no recognition. People aren't being recognized in their role. And so it's so easy for us to just go to work and come home and really not focus on our dreams. But when we have somebody that is saying, not only do I want to help reignite your dreams, but now I want to help you figure out, all right, what are the simple things that we're going to do to help you move forward? And it's really important to get back into those habits, but those habits, because we've stepped out of them for so many years, it can be challenging to get back into them. So having someone that you hold yourself accountable, or you guys can hold each other accountable, even if you don't invest in coaching, if you just have a friend, an accountability partner, you're going to start to see that you can actually make those improvements in your life, those incremental improvements that after 12 months, you're like, wow, I can't believe how great I feel. I can't believe I've been talking. I had a client, he'd been wanting to write a book for 5 years. And many people have a dream of writing a book. He finally decided to invest in himself, make the time, and within a year, he had his book published.
I agree. And so it seems like there's good news and bad news, right? That you're saying, and that the bad news is that it's sometimes hard to start and it's hard to unlearn those bad habits. But then the good news is that many times we know what we want, or at least we know how to begin on the path to what we want. And then there are these simple tools that exist, like getting encouragement and having an accountability partner. And so that person in particular that finally, after 5 years, finally wrote the book or finally started, like, what was his secret? How did he just finally begin to start? Like, it's easy enough to say, like, get a coach or get an accountability partner, but sometimes even taking that first step is difficult. So how do we even just break through all of the discouragement, the negativity, the years of pileup?
Yeah, no, look, if I wish we could bottle that up, right, and sell it, because we'd be making millions of dollars if we could just push people into action. But it really is, it does take the commitment to do the work every day. And it wasn't easy, right? Like there were definitely times when he would come to a session with me and he would have his tail between his legs and say, I didn't do the work. I didn't sit down and write. I didn't do what I said I was going to do. And so, but you know what? When that happens, instead of not continuing to write or just shelving the idea altogether, you have to move forward. So then he decided, okay, then the next time I'm going to come back and he would come to the next session having written even more than he said he was going to. And so, but it comes from us. We have to. So I wrote a book this year called Do What You Love, and it's a guide to living your creative life. And I talk a lot about the creative process. And so much of it is like, we have to show up every day and do the work, even when we don't feel like it. We can't think about the critics. How many of us don't pursue our dreams because we care what other people think? We are waiting for permission to do something that we really want to do. So we mentally have to get through that, which is why we can't, like, podcasts like you're out there teaching people and talking to really incredible people that are doing great work in the world so that we can gain that encouragement, because everyone needs that encouragement. And so it takes not only saying, yes, I am going to commit to this dream, but then it's also, what are the small steps that I can do? Right? If we sit down, so much of what stopped me from writing the book is I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I have to sit down one afternoon and write a whole book. No, that's not what happens. That's not how we achieve things. It's every day I had to sit down and decide, okay, I'm going to have a goal of writing at least 250 words every day. And I sat down and write them. And I'm telling you, I did not feel like writing every day. I absolutely didn't. And some days I wrote 250 words, and then other days I would write way more than that because I just kind of kept going. But it's not always easy. And I think that's the biggest piece, is the people that we see that make an impact, that are building these incredible businesses. We love their stories because we hear about the discomfort. We hear about how we didn't always love to do the work, right? But we showed up anyway, even when we didn't feel like it, even when we were dealing with criticism, even when we weren't sure what direction to take. When we're in that state, then the direction to take is, what is the next right thing? The one smallest thing that we can do next. And then that pushes us into action. It's not by sitting around and waiting. It's not by listening to another podcast. It's not by listening to another course or taking another or watching another YouTube video. It is literally doing the next right, smallest little thing that you can do. If you want to start losing weight, maybe you don't have an hour to work out, but can you go take a 10-minute walk? What is the one thing you can do?
I love it. So it's you're saying that it's important to just figure out these daily habits and to just figure out the next right thing, and just a very small thing, even 250 words every day, to get you on, just continue inching forward on those goals. And as you said, some days you don't feel like doing it, some days it's torture, but then there are those days when you even exceed what you wanted to do. And it seems like from listening to you, it's really important to be honest with yourself, right? And to, if you mess up, meaning you miss a day or you fall short of your little goal for that day, then don't just throw the whole thing out. It's okay to have an off day, and it's okay to admit to yourself and to your accountability partner that maybe you fell a little bit short, and what are you going to do just to make tomorrow better, or to get back on track, or to exceed. And so that's wonderful. And so you wrote this book, and as you and I both know, when you write a book, you discover things about yourself, right? Somewhere along maybe the middle part, all these kind of surprising things come out from you that you didn't know were there, that came about just because you wrote that book. So what was that for you in this most recent book that you wrote? What came out of your insides that you were not expecting?
Oh, well, writing this book, a couple things. One, I had a dream of writing this book for so many years. So it was one of those. So I'm happy that I'm finally making the decision to do the work and get it out into the world. But I actually hired a coach. I hired a writing coach. And that was really important for me because I really recognized how important this work needed to be. I wanted to create the best piece of work that I could possibly create. You know, I see a lot of people talk about, oh, I'm going to teach you how to write a book in a weekend, or write a book over a course of a month. And I was like, no, I want to make sure that whatever that I write, what's been in my heart for so many years, in a way that I really feel like is going to resonate with people. And so for me, I invested in a coach, and I met with her every month. And I have to tell you, it was not always a fun process. It was painful. My writing coach would read some of my work, and I'm thinking it's like so brilliant, and she is kind of poking holes in it and kind of figuring out different, she asking me a lot of really great questions to consider, maybe writing in a different way, or including something a little bit differently, or whatever it was. And so I learned a lot of, about the writing process in general. I started reading a lot of really great authors, and just like learning more about the writing process in general. So people like Anne Lamott and Stephen King and Walter Mosley and Julia Cameron and all these really incredible writers, because I really discovered I have a love of writing, like learning how to be a really great writer. And I think it's such a skill. And you're in PR and everything, so when you think about language and writing, it's like that to me is so fascinating. I'm fascinated by copywriters, like the best copywriters in the world. They know how to move people into action, and so I got really excited about that. And so that is something that I learned a lot more about myself. I also got really into poetry from writing, which I never thought I would do. In fact, I included some poetry in the book. And so, yeah, it was a really fun creative process, and I really enjoyed it. And I also, there was a lot of moments when I was like, why am I even doing this?
Right. There was the challenges for sure. And that's great that you put a lot of yourself into it, it seems, right? Like with the poetry and taking it seriously, with the writing coach and dealing with
Yeah.
that. And like, how did you power through the perfectionism, or like if the writing coach like didn't like what you write and you were just so tempted to give up, how did you finish anyway?
Oh yeah, so I have so in my book I share the 7 myths stopping people from pursuing their passions, and myth number 6 is it has to be perfect. And Robert, it was so funny. That section was like one of the hardest sections for me to write, which is kind of ironic. But yeah, like perfectionism I think stops us from doing the work that we want to do. But what was cool is what I discovered, and if anyone out there is writing a book, I hope this supports you and helps you in some way. When my writing coach would question some of the work or just give me some feedback that I wasn't ready for, I first got it, I immediately wanted to start working on it. That was not good. I was very emotional. I was in an emotional space. I was like still like not really sure why she was questioning the work. So I had to recognize that about myself, and then I decided, "Hey, I'm going to take at least 24 hours before I go back to her comments and then look." And what I discovered was, oh, when I take some emotion out of it, I now see why she was questioning some of the choices that I made. And I either just, then I was able to decide, okay, I'm going to go with this direction, or nope, I still feel very strongly about this direction. I'm going to go for it. So that's how I kind of handled a little bit of that. And then when it came to perfectionism, every author friend of mine said the same thing. When you're done with writing the book and going through editing, you have to get it out. Like you're learning and growing every single day. You're reading more, you're also looking at your work. And so even after you finish your draft, when you're finished and like it's ready to go to print and everything, if you read it again, if you keep reading it, you're just going to want to change it, because that's the perfectionism mind. Like, oh, I could say this differently, because we're constantly learning and growing. And so at some point, you just have to let go. One of my mentors said, when you write a book and you put it out into the world, it no longer belongs to you, it belongs to the reader. And I thought that was a really interesting way to put it. And so you just kind of have to have faith that you did the best work that you could at the time that you did it. And then you get to move on and you get to write the next book. So those are some of the lessons that I learned. But I would love to hear what you discovered about yourself in writing.
Now you're turning it back on me, and I think it was similar to you in that it was kind of freeing to not be focusing so much on myself, right? There's a certain amount of yourself and like your hobbies and your personality you put into it, but then as you're saying, when you release it out there and it's more about helping other people, like I found that's a really great motivator, right? And it's a great way to kind of start with the end in mind instead of saying, well, I'm looking at this blank page or I've got to write these 3 more chapters. Instead, you say, like, who are the people out there that are stuck that need my help? And then that kind of writes the book itself for you. But it's also that motivator that you mentioned of like saying, well, I can't keep revising this until the end of time, right? Sure, you need to get things polished, but at a certain amount, like you need to keep some of the roughness in and just let it out there to help the people that need helping. So that's what I learned similar to you, is that after a while, it's about them, not about you.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be challenging. You got to get that ego out of it. So often, even in business, we got to let go of that ego.
Yeah, and it seems like you're saying that an ego is a tool just like anything else, the same way that your emotions are a tool, and it can be something that you should be using it should not be using you. And so like that technique you mentioned there of just like kind of sitting on something for 24 hours and not necessarily being reactionary and not just jumping into action, like sometimes that can really help to revisit something with a cooler head and just not let your emotions get the best of you. And so we've been talking about all these cool things, right? We've been talking about the writing process, procrastination, and our dreams. Do you think, is there like a number one problem that people these days should be thinking about or focusing on? Is it maybe something that is maybe not being discussed enough?
Oh gosh. What, in general or in business? Like, that's a big question.
Whatever comes to mind, general, but you're saying it's all sort of connected anyway, right? So in personal life or business or in general, just where do you think people are stuck maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the of the myths that I share in the book are pieces that I feel like people are stuck on. Perfectionism is a big piece of that. Permission is a big piece of that, where people are kind of waiting for permission to pursue a life that they really want to pursue. I see a lot of people who are living their life for someone else, or they don't want to disappoint someone else in their life, but they're really not going after their dreams. And so I think one of the best things that we can do for ourselves and for our people, the teams that we lead, is kind of coming back to what I mentioned at the beginning, is to ask people, what are your dreams? To remind them to dream, to encourage them to create a list. We encourage our clients to create a list of 100 dreams, which seems like so many, but if you put a couple dreams in each of the different categories, you end up with 100. And then really deciding, hey, I'm going to live my life for me. Like, I'm going to build and create what is important for me, and really let go of that perfectionism and let go of comparison. That is something definitely have noticed too over the years with different clients, is that this, because of social media, we are able to see so many different people's highlight reels of what their life is and looks like, that we've lost touch of what's really important, like what really does actually make us happy and fulfilled. And instead, we are just chasing the next thing. One of the myths that I share in the book is you're not enough. You know, this feeling of enoughness, like, when are you going to feel like you're enough? I mean, what would it look like today if you could say, you could wake up this morning and say, I am enough. Like, I am enough, who I am, what I'm building, what I stand for. I am enough right now. I'm getting better every day, right? This doesn't mean that we don't want to grow and develop and read great books and listen to great podcasts and learn and grow. But it's just this idea that if we can show up in a way that we feel like I'm enough, I am worthy, my voice matters. You know, leaders today in business, like, people want to feel, people, so much of what people want is so similar. We want to feel seen and valued and heard. And we want to know that we actually can do something to create a better future for ourselves. And so when we get to focus on our dreams and we believe that we can actually achieve those things, then we're going to live a very different life.
Wonderful. And this book sounds amazing. And, you know, they say comparison is the thief of joy. And this whole idea of getting over the curationness of the world, and don't live your life for someone else, because they're showing you their best, but they still have struggles as well. And you need to, if you're not happy, don't wait for that permission. Don't say, oh, I'll only be happy if I have this, or if I achieve this. It's like, find a way to be happy anyway, and then go and achieve what you wanted to achieve. But don't try to kind of have the chicken and the egg, where you're waiting to be happy to do this, and you can only do this if you can be happy. And next thing you know, you're spinning your wheels for years and you're stuck. And so, you know, this is the Scaling Secrets podcast. And sometimes people come on here and they kind of talk about how important it is to get their mind right, or how to build their team. But we talk about scaling a business and kind of getting over those humps. So do you have anything in these last 2 minutes here to speak about scaling a business, and like what it takes, or where people stuck, or just how someone can break through? Do you have any like tips or advice as far as scaling business to 7 or 8 figures?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes, the clients that we work with, they are scaling their business, and so often they come to us because of culture, right? Like, they want to build a great culture. When we are in today's world, well, I say today's world now, but I remember when I started my career years ago at the Chamber of Commerce, this was a conversation I was having with leaders way back when, around culture and hiring and attracting great talent. Like we need to, if we're going to grow and scale, we need to have really great people on our team. And really great people, really great performers, they want to learn, they want to grow, they want to get better. They want an environment in which they feel like they can be part of a really great mission, and also they are going to grow. Like there's advancement. They want to be able to grow in their career and do something really great together. And so we've got to have a culture that supports that. And so with leaders, I think today with leaders, it's so incredible to see how many leaders are very intentional about creating a culture, hiring the right people, having a really great hiring process. Oh my gosh, having a rigorous hiring process is so important. So you get those right people on your team. Everyone knows what winning looks like. Everyone knows that when they're coming into work, they know what their role is, they know what's expected of them, and they have a coach. Like great leaders are coaches. Great leaders are coaches. Like people need coaches way more than they need managers. And so when we can create a coaching culture where people feel supported and people feel like, wow, my leader has my back, my leader wants what's best for me as well as the organization, I think that is where we see a lot of growth in organizations, because you're attracting the best talent, right? You're attracting great talent when you have a team of people that they enjoy coming to work together, they know the mission, they are on board with the values. They appreciate the work that they get to do. You have set very clear expectations, and you also have leaders that know how to have healthy conflict, right? I can't tell you how many leaders we work with where they have people on their teams, they have managers or executive leaders on the team that are challenged with having uncomfortable, difficult conversations with their team members. But we have to have that managerial courage and know that we can have those conversations with people in a productive way so that we can all move forward and grow. So we got to hire the right people and give them a really healthy environment in which to thrive.
I love it. So hire the right people, have this rigorous hiring process, have the company culture that has everyone excited, energized, and wanting to go to work and be a productive team. And you're saying don't be a manager, be a coach, but also don't be afraid to deal with those conflicts if something needs to be fixed. And so there's a lot to navigate and a lot to think about. And so if someone wants to take the next step here in their journey of having a company culture and hiring the right people, and they want to check out your book and your podcasts and Floyd coaching and all that, what's the next step here? What's the call to action?
Yeah, so I would tell people, if you're interested in learning about having a dream manager at your organization, you can go to thedreammanager.com. And then if you're just looking for some potential coaching and having a coach and to help you become the best version and the best leader that you can be, go to floydcoaching.com. And then my book's on Amazon. And, I'm all over the socials too. So you can find me wherever you are, whether it's Instagram or LinkedIn. Those are my two top platforms.
Wonderful. So that is thedreammanager.com. And then on the Amazons and on the socials, Kate Volman, Volman. And as we're wrapping up our conversation here, Kate, it's always fun to jump in and think about a quote or a lesson that's really helped us. And you've been through all kinds of ups and downs. You've done all kinds of writing and podcasting. So what jumps out of your mind right now when I ask you for a helpful, encouraging, motivational quote or lesson to get us through?
Oh gosh, like not mine, like from somebody else.
It could be yours. There are no rules. Could be
Oh
something you've
my
heard.
gosh. Oh, there's so many incredible quotes that I absolutely adore, but I will leave people with oh my gosh. This is I'll leave people with one of my favorite Matthew Kelly quotes, because in this world where I feel like we want instant gratification and it's so easy for us to be impatient in this world. I always, one of my go-to quotes when I think about building a business and what that looks like and how we need to be more decade thinkers. Matthew says that we overestimate what we can accomplish in a year and we underestimate what we can achieve in a decade. And I love that idea of just being this long-term thinker and knowing that everything that we're doing today is all going to build on itself, and that we actually have a lot of time to create something really remarkable.
Wonderful. And that ties right in with what you're saying about having the vision, having those goals and those consistent habits. So very wonderful. And so it is time now to go and check out Kate Volman on social media and on Amazon and at thedreammanager.com. So thank you very much, Kate, for showing up, blowing our minds, giving us all this helpful advice.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And thanks for all that you're doing to help businesses grow.
All right.